Good morning, good morning, good morning. I think we're live. We should be live. I never really know if I'm live. But, oh wait, nope, my audio's making noise. That's a good sign that I'm live. Hello everyone, skip ad. I have ads on my stream over here. Yep, and we are live. Good morning, everyone. How is it going, Brian? Good to see you on board. Good to see you this past week. Anyways, we can hear you. Robbie, I'm glad you can hear me. So, it's been a while since I did a regular old Q&A. We do the weekly lives now, and then other weeks we're traveling, and so between the two, switch to live chat. Robbie, you are a lovely human being. I think I'm on live chat. Uh-oh, I just got rid of live chat. What did I just do? Chat, no, live chat. Here we go. Live chat's moved. What do you mean live chat has moved? Don't tell me live chat has moved. What did I do? I have to go back out and back into my thingy over here because I accidentally, let's X on that video, go back in, show me the live chat, there we go. I screwed up over there. That's because I'm actually looking at this on my tablet instead of my Streamlabs, so it's automatically on live chat, supposedly. Morning live, Alex. We can hear you. Switch to live chat. Good morning. Who are you? Successful. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Anyways, we haven't done a regular live Q&A in quite some time because we do the weekly live, game shows instead. This week we are not doing a weekly live game show because of the fact that, well, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, thanks for becoming a member again, Successful. I appreciate you very much. Basically, myself, Devin, and Meg have all been at Level Up Retreat this past week, and Devin has a job at Lucky Duck, and so I didn't even ask. I was just like, you know what, why don't you go catch up on your job stuff, because you've just been at the retreat the whole weekend, and I'll take care of the Q&A myself this morning. And then also, Meg has an additional convention she's doing this week. She's doing a different gig entirely, and so between the three of us, we have two people who have other things going on this week, and I was like, you know what? I'll just do a weekly Q&A because, well, not weekly Q&A, I guess, not anymore. I'll just do a live Q&A because I like doing the Q&As anyways. It's been a while. In theory, in a perfect world, I would do weekly lives and weekly Q&As, but one step at a time. The thing I like about the Q&As, more so than the lives, is the lives I like because, I have Devin and Meg on there, and that just makes the whole entire thing more fun. But the thing I like about the Q&As is the fact that I like that direct interaction that you get to have, the more conversational flow as opposed to purely us doing a show and occasionally interacting with chat as we go through that. Successful Geek, who needs to catch up on GameFan stuff, right? You see, that's the kind of interaction that I crave, the real human connection of two people who are just bonding as opposed to being jerks to one another. But no, GameFan stuff, I actually just got off. The reason I'm a few minutes late this meeting is because I just got off an hour-long GameFan meeting, so the GameFan stuff happens. I think a big part of the difference, and this is something I've talked about on the channel before, it's come up in general, I tend to be a bit of a, I don't even want to say workaholic, but I do want to say I am very structured and rigid with my time. I go directly from thing to thing to thing to thing. I will sit there and queue up 5 videos. I'll go ahead and do, I'm very structured with my time. I try not to waste time, and that means I get a lot done. And I do find that the pacing doesn't always work for everyone, and so there is that balance there. Board gamer craves human interaction. Makes sense, Corey. Corey, I've been playing a decent amount of solo games this past week, but I've also been at Level Up Retreat where I've played a decent amount of non-solo games. Brian, thanks for becoming a BGC member. Glad to be home. It was great to see the BoardGameCo crew. Brian, it was great to meet you in person. Like, I know, you're in Discord, you're always giving suggestions and offering helpful advice, and you're just around a lot, and it's always nice to put a face to the name. And I haven't done that for everyone. Some of our crew, George, Swab Mom, Swab Dad, I've had that connection, Stacy. I've had that connection with a lot of people in our Discord in general, but there are those who I haven't actually seen in person. This was my first time meeting you, I think. Otherwise, you're going to tell me I'm wrong here. It was my first time meeting Petrified. So it is nice to get those additional faces to the name, so to speak, and actually connect and interact. And I'm glad I got to play games with, I think, everyone who was in our Discord that was at Level Up. I believe I got to play at least one game with everyone, some multiples. Wesley Scott, good morning, Alex. Good morning, Wesley. Successful. I'm just salty because I didn't go to Level Up. Successful. You should be salty. It was a lot of fun, and I was definitely worried about it. It was one that, being somebody who is the face of Level Up, and not just the face, I'm a part owner of Level Up. I was definitely worried about. I was worried. There's a sense of responsibility. If I go to insert random convention name here, or let's just do WSBG. If I go to WSBG again this year, and it's an absolutely horrific failure, I'll still have fun, and any kind of sense of what's going wrong isn't on me. Versus that sense of responsibility very much weighed heavily on me with Level Up. Like, okay, what if it isn't a good time? What if we need to do more? What if we didn't do enough events? Because we didn't do a lot of events. We had like a few events, and then we had, mostly playing games. What if the library isn't enough to keep people happy? All those things are questions that weigh on me as I am responsible for effectively saying, hey, please come to this event and have fun and good time. So I want you to have a fun and good time. But it was, I think, a fun and good time. I had a blast, and overall the feedback we've gotten so far has been overwhelmingly positive. We will be sending out, surveys to the people who attended to try to figure out what areas they felt could have been tightened up on, what things they'd like to see next year. But we definitely want it to be a overall good time. We're even looking into the possibility of making it a twice-a-year thing, but no guarantees there. We're doing a lot of research. We'd like to do it. We'd like to make it an ongoing thing in the board game space, but we'll see if that does or does not happen. Andrew, Discord channel. Yes, we have a Discord channel. There's a few Discord channels, actually, but the main one really is Camp Co-op. Camp Co-op has a Discord channel that's more associated with the campaign content I do with Professor Meg that we do over on our Camp Co-op YouTube channel. We have a Camp Co-op, Discord channel that we have a very close-knit group of people over there. Anyone's really welcome to join. It's not specifically for Camp Co-op Successful. Speaking of which, feel free to go ahead and link the Discord over here. It is a very friendly place, meaning the goal, it's a weird thing, it's a weird vibe. Like, it's Camp Co-op's vibe is a little different than BoardGameCo's vibe. BoardGameCo's vibe is very into the board games, very here for the board games, and also here for the, hey, how can I save $5 in a Kickstarter game? The Camp Co-op vibe is more just like, hey, you've had a bad day, let's have a conversation. So the vibe really is about the people. I'm not saying that to scare you off. I'm not like, you have to be a people person. You can do what you want, just understand the vibe and hopefully reflect that vibe. We like the place. It's very chill. It's very homey. We're all a good group of friends over there. Successful. I think I might try for Dice Tower Cons and level up in the future. I don't need to go to Gamma or Gen Con, any of those new ones, because I just want to play games. Yeah, ideally, if you want to play games, Dice Tower West, WSBG, Dice Tower East, Board Game Geek Con, Level Up Retreat, those are all playing game conventions, as well as many, many others, obviously. Origins, PAX, Gen Con, those are conventions that are, much more about the booths, which is great for certain things, but if your goal is to play games, you can peripherally play games, but it's not necessarily as much the main focus. Do you want Camp Co-op? Is a complete disaster. Alex forgot DEI. I didn't forget DEI. DEI is supposed to be there. I don't know what happened to it. I still don't know what happened to it. Some games, there were a handful of games that were supposed to be there that were missing. Alexander Mel, great job running your first convention. Thank you, Alex, and thanks for being there as well as for the show. Jeffrey, what happened to your monthly video with your wife recapping what you backed? So I actually should have a video up this Sunday which talks about it a little bit. This is a question I've answered in the past in general, but I've stopped backing games for the most part. That's what it comes down to. So, give a bit of a recap. In general, for those who don't know what's going on, I had a monthly series where I first started solo. I started a while ago solo of what I backed, covering the games I backed that month, talking about the games I was interested in that month, and then what I backed from the games. So I was interested, I covered 50 games this month, and then from those 50, these 20 or so were games I was interested in. And from those 20, I backed these 7. And then at some point, I started adding my wife to them. We started making it a regular, recurring series. The problem is, around November-ish of last year, I started tightening my finances. The short version is, I guess let's get full public information over here. I had a $32,000 tax bill this year, okay? Now, it was partially expected. I knew that I was having a tax bill coming. The nature of reporting your own taxes means I knew I had a tax bill coming, and I had not been setting aside taxes. I've been moving to my own, moving to my own finances and managing my own taxes and stuff. But effectively, what I did last year, from 2021, but I only filed my taxes very late. From 2021, I had a regular job, but then I had YouTube on top of that, and I had BoardGameCo the retail operation on top of that, and it's the most money I ever made that year, and ever will make again, because I had 3 jobs, and now I'm down again. And so that year, I didn't file things properly, and so I had a $32,000 tax bill that I was expecting it to be around 15 that I had set aside, and it was a lot of money. And so at that point, what I started doing is I started spending less money, as you are wont to do when you spend so much money, when you have that much money, have those expenses. So what happened is around November or so, I stopped backing quite as many games, and I went from backing, 3 to 7 games a month, down to backing, 1 game a month, if that much. And so it very heavily dropped. And so if you look at the last what we backed, which I think was done in January, maybe February, at that point I was already combining 2 months, and it was like, hey, here's 20 games I was interested in backing, and here's like the one that I did. And the problem is I haven't really picked up backing since then. I haven't picked up a lot of it. Now, granted as well, by the way, something to take into account is because I do cover a lot of these games, I do get games sent to me as well. So that is a factor, meaning when I go through the games that I backed every month, there might be 2 or 3 I'm getting anyway as a content creator, but I didn't necessarily back them. And so I just dropped down to not really having much for the video content. The video I have going up this month, I think Sunday, if things go as planned, is Sunday, is I'm doing a new video series called Month in Review. So I do Week in Review, but I'm going to be doing Month in Review, where I do a few different things. I'm going to be talking about, the best games I played that month, the disappointments I have that month, and one of the sections is going to be the games, the campaign highlights. And it's not even games I backed, because in this month's campaign highlights, there are 5 campaigns I picked out as the games that I think in June. I think it's for June. It's in July, but it's for June. I picked out 5 games or so that were the campaign highlights for June, and even from those 5, I only backed 1, if I recall correctly. So that's what happened effectively. There's just not enough content around that series for that to be a regular series. Let me scroll back up. Corey, I've only been able to go to small local cons someday. Corey, we'd love to have you. Aaron, I'd love to volunteer to work at Level Up if you're looking for people next year. Aaron, yes, we are looking for volunteers in general. I mean, we had a bunch of volunteers this year, but we do generally need volunteers. Some of that's going to be reflected around the size of the convention, but I would say that we're probably looking for 10 to 20 volunteers next year. We'll comp your badge, and room will still be on you. Unfortunately, we can't cover that, but we'll comp your badge, and you'll still be able to have fun. Volunteer work is for like a certain amount of hours to a degree, either set up, tear down, probably around, I mean, if we comp your badge, we're probably looking for around, 8 to 10 hours of work. But we can go over that at some point. But we reach out. Level Up has an email. You can reach out. We'll definitely be talking about, trust me, if you watch this channel, you'll know when the next Level Up convention is happening. Successful. I'm not a people person, but they still let me in the Discord. Successful, that's not true, okay? It's not that we let you in the Discord, it's that you created the Discord, so it's not like we can kick you out. Brian, Alex, since you're the same boat as most of us and are being more selective about what titles we back, are you thinking about different series would be an issue to joy watch with you? I appreciate that, Brian. We've talked about it. I don't have anything set up right now, but we've talked about it. Muck Monster, where do you sell all the games that leave your collection? Well, Muck Monster, I used to sell the games to, I used to send a lot of the games to BoardGameCo, the retail operation, the one that I used to run. And then past that, after that, I started selling it to somebody local, where he takes care of selling the games for me, and he basically takes half of whatever he sells them for. So I'll give him 10 games, and he'll sell them for whatever, $300, and he'll keep $150, I'll keep $150. What I do is, now that we're doing Level Up Retreat, now I just send them directly to Level Up Retreat so that we can help host that library. I had a surprising amount of people asking me, so are all these games yours from the Level Up Retreat library? Now, Level Up, we had around, we had maybe around 600 games or so, 500 games the first year in our library. And we definitely plan on adding that even more as we continue to grow. But I'd say from those 500, maybe a third of them were my games. Maybe roughly a third were probably directly from me. Games that as I moved them out, they went to Level Up. And then the other 2/3 we selected and whatnot. And the goal specifically is not to be garbage. We do not want garbage games. We want them to be good games that you want. Meaning, if I wanted to just have games, I could have easily had 700, 800 games. But we have specifically been fairly selective about trying to make sure that we have games that people will want to play, not just games that fill the shelf. It's been a while successful. It's been a while since I backed a new game. I've backed some expansions for games I enjoy, but that's about it. I'm probably backing more Dread. I probably shouldn't. That's probably the one thing. The problem with the Command games is I do like a lot of Command games, and some don't stick around, but and when they don't stick around, I get my money back just fine in them. So I probably am backing more Dread, but I have been much more selective in general. Cleanoman. Also, part of it is, because of the amount of things I do with GameFound and YouTube and all those things, I don't have time to sell the games that I used to. So my whole premise of a lot of the things I do on the channel, which is, hey, back this game, and if you sell it, you can get your money back, that's only true if you actually take the time to sell it. And if I'm giving it to somebody else who's taking half the money, well, that doesn't work quite as much. So I have to be more selective. Even when a game will hold its value, unless I'm going to take the time to sell it, and I can't, I have too many responsibilities, I have to be more selective about what I back just because of that. Corey Christensen. I actually have a good answer for this. Oh wait, Clitterman. Where do you get those nice t-shirts? From T-Turtle. I get these from T-Turtle. I am not sponsored by them yet. I hope to be. I need to reach out to them because I should. And like the things I like, Ember mugs, T-Turtles, I don't know, whatever it is, I should try to get sponsored by those people. But anyways, Corey Christensen. Most memorable retreat moment. This is an easy one, okay? There's a game called Nana. Okay, there's a game called Nana, and the game is, it's a trick-taking memory Go Fish game. That's what it is, okay? I believe, so I was taught it by Thinker Themer, who I believe found out about it from Before You Play, who they found it on their recent trip to Japan. But Nana's a game where effectively you have a hand of cards, and it's a little bit memory, a little bit trick-taking, a little bit Go Fish. That's what it is, okay? And so part of it is you can only ask someone to show their highest or lowest card. Okay, so you organize the cards in your hand, and you have to ask someone to show their highest or lowest card. So you'll say someone like, oh, Amy, if you can show your highest card, and Amy will put down the table, and it'll be like a 12. The numbers range from 1 to 13, if I recall correctly. I think it's 1 to 13. Maybe it's 1 to 12. I think it's 1 to 13. So Amy will put down a 12 on the table. Now you can say again, once that happens, you can say again, Amy, show me another 12. Or you can say, James, show me your highest card. Well, not show me another 12. Show me your next highest card. And then maybe she puts down the next card. Maybe it's 11. Maybe it's a 12. Or you can say to somebody else, James, show me your highest card. And James throws down his highest card, and let's say it's an 11. So as soon as there's two different numbers, your turn's over, it's the next person's turn. But now everyone at the table knows that James has an 11 and Amy has a 12. And I have in my hand, I have a 12. So I say, Chris, show me your highest card. And Chris puts it down, it's a 12. And so as soon as I see a 12 from Chris, I can then turn to Amy and say, Amy, show me your highest card. She puts down a 12. Then I put down my highest card, again, only highest or lowest. And then at that, therefore, I have 3 12s on the table. And as soon as you have a set of 3, you take those cards. And as soon as you have 3 sets of 3s, then you win the game. There's a few more rules, but that's the general gist of it. We had a turn where I can't remember, we taught the game, and Meg was in the game, and I can't remember the exact sequence, but it became very clearly obvious. There's also some cards in the middle of the table, so you can also flip over the cards in the middle of the table as well. Think of it as somebody else's hand, but it's a way you can get lucky with other numbers. But effectively, someone flipped over a card in the middle, and it was a 1. They turned it back over. Oh, they've tried another card. They missed it. Somebody else had a 1, and so then it becomes Meg's turn, and Meg goes, show me your lowest card. Someone puts down a 1. She puts down her own card. She's like, here's my lowest card. It's a 1. And she immediately confidently reaches over to the middle of the table and flips over the wrong card, which was a 9, and she mistook the 1. And all of us were just bursting into, like, it was maybe you had to be there, but it was a really funny moment. And then the next person obviously goes 1 1 1 and took the suit. So it really was funny. It was amusing to be there for that. Where do you get those nice t-shirts? Swebme, I'm just popping to say hi. I'm in the middle of a work meeting, but I'm looking forward to watching the Q&A tonight. Swebme, enjoy your work meeting. I hope you had fun this past weekend. Brian, hi Swebme. Swebme, it was great seeing you at Level Up Chat, and I had the best time. I'm glad you did. Brian, thanks for the nudge that Alex is live. Thank you, Brian. Successful. Have a good work day. Hi, Adam. Great to see you. Morganite. I've also moved to backing most of the expansion of games I already enjoy and independent creators. I'm still waiting on my pandemic purchase to finish rolling in later this year. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Backing fewer games is a thing. Sebastian, good morning, Alex, and hello to everyone else. Hello, Sebastian. Robbie, what was the biggest thing from the convention that you think you'll change for the next one? Ooh, Robbie, there's a list. There's a list. So, let's see what we got over here. Also, the chat stopped. Where's chat? No, that chat's still going. What is the latest? Perfect. Okay, good. Where was it go? What was the biggest thing from the con that you think will change for the next one? So I think the biggest thing we're going to change is we're going to be trying to do more events effectively. For Level Up, again, we're going to be reaching out for feedback and trying to figure out what other people want to see or whatnot. But the main focus ultimately was playing games. That was the main focus. We had a library, we were playing games. We had a whole hot game selection of games that were set up that you can jump straight into. We had a bunch of prototypes that I thought were specifically popular. Like, I didn't just put prototypes out. I brought prototypes that I thought were good prototypes to bring and to show. And so those were all on the table. And so we had a lot of games set up and ready to go. And then we had a few events. We had, we had a magic show at the end. We had Grant doing a Grant for Games X doing a comedy show. We had Jeff Kornberg from the Dragon's Tomb did a Learn to Play of Planet Unknown, which I missed, and I'm still upset at myself that I missed it. But overall, yeah, we just had the main focus was playing games. What I would like to do more next year is I'd like to be able to set up a lot more events. One of the things I did not do, and this is partially my own blind spot and partially the amount of time we had, but I didn't really set up a lot of events. So like there was no, if you go to Tabletop Events, which is a site that's often used to run conventions, usually there's tables you can go to. You can be like, oh, a Planet Unknown game is happening at 1. Oh, there's going to be this game happening there. There's going to be that game happening there. They're running a Blood on the Clock Tower events every single night at 9. So you can have these events where people can sign up for a seat at certain events. And that's something we didn't heavily do this year. And part of it was time because, we started planning for the convention in February. It just doesn't leave a lot of time for things. Part of it's my own blind spots. I don't usually do those when I go to events. And so even starting off the bat, I wasn't even aware of that was something that was done. And so I really want to tighten up how we run events and how we schedule events and speak to a few other conventions and what they do, because there's both the technology aspect of it, there's the delegating the table space, how we manage all that. I just don't have some of those answers, but that's the main thing I would like to add more next year instinctively. There are dozens of areas you can add to a convention to make it better. You can add day passes, you can add family days, you can add a prototype, more of a prototype focus, you can add RPGs to make it more adjacent, you can add vendor halls and exhibitors and all that stuff. There's all these things you could do to improve a convention, and it is going to be one step at a time. The goal with Level Up, as long as we continue to do it, is to constantly improve upon it, but also not to take on so much that it falls flat under the weight of our own incompetence in areas we don't know enough about. So I want to add things slowly. My next goal, in theory, is adding more events. Dun dun dun. Brian, for those that didn't attend Level Up, they had an impressive library of games that we gravitate towards on crowdfunding. Some libraries are Monopoly, Candle, and Catan. Level Up was nice. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Yeah, we definitely, I think we had Catan. We had a copy of Catan. We had a copy of Apples to Apples. Like, we definitely wanted some peripherals, but I wanted it to be, my goal with any game library isn't that every game is there. You can't do that unless you have thousands and thousands of games. You just can't. I mean, Dice Tower West has one of the most impressive game libraries that I know of with like 3,000 plus games, and it still won't have everything. That's just the nature of how many games there are in our ecosystem. My goal with a game library is that anyone going to the shelves should have multiple things that they want to play, that they feel torn in different directions. That's my ideal goal. And I think we accomplished that, especially combined with the hot games and the prototypes. But again, even then I want to add, and like an oversight, we did not have Dune Imperium. That was a big oversight. We're going to have that in this next year. The Fancy Filmmaker, what is the latest game you're excited to play but ended up hating? For me, it was Lords of Ragnarok. I was so excited to play it, but my group's first playthrough was a disaster. So fun fact, Fancy Filmmaker, in general, when games that I covered show up in people's collections, I usually like to keep an eye on social media and see what people's opinions are, especially if I like the game, and also if I particularly dislike the game. If I was in the middle, I don't really care. And so Lords of Ragnarok is one that I did very much enjoy, and I've been happy to see that many people are really loving the game. And the reason I have that bias or mindfulness is, like, I don't like being a person who's like, this game's the best, and everyone else plays it and they're like, it's tolerably good at best. I don't like that. I like it when my opinion is mirrored, not 100%. This is nature. You don't want 100% mirrors of an opinion, because otherwise what value are you? But you do want to a certain extent that if you told a lot of people a game is good, it is better for me if people like the game. Just for my own rep, or whatever you want to call it, street cred, whatever you want to call it. And so Lords of Ragnarok is a game that I definitely have seen a lot of people enjoying, and I'm very happy to do so. I'm very happy that they are. I'm sad that you did not enjoy it. I am curious what would happen if you gave it multiple plays, but I will also say that I generally, as a pure player of games as opposed to a content creator, I very rarely play games twice. That happens, but I do very rarely play games twice. If I don't like it the first time, I move on from it. The only reason I play games twice nowadays, if I don't like it, is because I'm reviewing them more often than not, and so I want to get in more plays to like be certain of my opinion for the sake of the, not validity, but the completeness of the review, if that makes sense. As far as a game that fell flat for me, let's go ahead and pull up my apps over here, because that's where I can look at BG stats and see what I played that was a bust for me recently. No, these are all good games, so I can't help you. No, those are good games. I'm looking for like the first game that was like a theoretical. So there is one here. I'm not going to say it because it was a prototype and a partial, like it wasn't even a full experience. It was literally like a handheld experience that didn't even go into it. Like it just didn't give me enough. So it's not that it was a letdown, it's that I didn't get to see the situation. So I'm not going to say that one yet. No. Honestly, I'm playing fine games right now. Like, I'm not looking for games that are amazing right now. I'm just looking for a game that disappointed me. I don't know my last real disappointment. Again, past that one that was like a kind of more of a walkthrough. Like, I was disappointed that I didn't get to play the game. I just got like here's the walkthrough, and now the future game will come to you later. No. I've been playing good games, or good enough at least. No. I'm just going slowly. Koali. There we go. Koali. That's a game that disappoints me, okay? Koali is an abstract game from Hachette that it looked very much like Tak, and my instinct around Koali was that it would be a game that I enjoyed, but I assumed I would like Tak more, because I love Tak, and I don't think you can beat Tak. But I played Koali, and I thought it was way too random and vague. It's actually on BoardGameCo. You can check it out there. I do not think BoardGameCo is the best representation of playing the game, but it kind of fell flat for me. I was like, not only is it not as good as Tak, it's okay. Like, it's an okay game. It's not bad. I don't mind it, but I definitely had higher hopes for it, partially because of how beautiful it was. So at me, we need level up social media so the community can build relations before the con. I think this will ease getting people to play games together and help people who are attending solo. So at me, I don't disagree. Do you mean Facebook groups, Instagram? Honestly, I should get focused on this ASAP. But do you mean Facebook groups, Instagram, Discord? What do you mean? Let me know. I'm interested in your opinion because I want to take care of that. Andrew, what days are you going to be at Gen Con? All the days, Andrew. I'll be at Gen Con at all the days. Successful. Alex, how do you feel about Overboss? Overboss, like the boss monster, like the kind of Cascadia style or Calico style game. If that's the one you're talking about, I thought it was good and I enjoyed it, but I do not think I'd ever pick it over Calico, Cascadia, or any of those. Sebastian, have you played Lords of Ragnarok? Already decently to have a final verdict. I have only played Lords of Ragnarok during the prototype phase. I have not yet played it since it has arrived at my doorstep. So, half yes. JB, deciding between Beast and Mind Management, which do you prefer? JB, I would answer Mind Management only because I've played that so much more. I need to dive into Beast. It's one of my big disappointments that I have not had a chance to play Beast since the final game arrived. In general, lots of games show up, and then some of them I get to like dive into and play and like remind myself. Like I just played The Witcher, and I'm like just completely reminded of how much I like it. But Beast I haven't been able to play yet. Lords of Ragnarok I haven't been able to play yet. I'm constantly torn between the games showing up that I know I want to play versus the games that I have to cover, and I'm torn. But I can't tell you Beast until I play it more. I can recommend Beast, but if I was picking, I'd pick the one I've played more. Scott Prisk, Great Western Trail, once New Zealand comes out, would love to see a comparison. I am not the person to give that comparison. I've played Great Western Trail. I have played 2nd edition. I will be playing Argentina at some point, but to me it's not a game system that I love. It's a game system I'm mildly okay with. I don't think I'd be the best comparison point. Meryl White, Lords of Ragnarok did not do it for me. I was bummed. I wanted to like it more. I sold it. I'm sad to hear that. Nidamir PL, hello there. Successful Geek, wait, you had Devin attend and didn't have Dune Imperium? I don't think you had the real Devin there. Successful, that's Devin's fault. He was supposed to bring the cards. So about me, Devin played disc golf and Crokinole the whole time. I don't know if he touched the library. Devin played games at tables with others that they kind of sat down and made him play. But Devin was mostly disc golf and Crokinole, there's no question. Brian, Successful Geek, yes, but Jeremy's there with Crokinole. Devin can be lured out just for that. Successful, that's fair. Successful, I have not been logging my games, but been having fun. I try to log my games, but it's never 100%. Like, I say this all the time, it's never 100%. Just last week, I was logging my, like, 4th play of a game, or my 3rd play of a game, and I didn't have any other plays in my library. So I was like, oh, well, I can't log my 3rd play of a game if I haven't played this ever according to my app. And that's not me not playing the game, it's just I don't remember every single thing. Even post Level Up, I was trying, like I didn't log a single game doing Level Up. What I did is on the drive home, I was trying to remember all the games I played and thinking through I played that. And at first I could only get to 20 games. It's like, I feel there's more. And then like the next morning I remember 2 more games. That will happen on a regular basis. I don't even know what I'm missing. I played 22 different games at Level Up Retreat. Some of them multiple times, but 22 different games at Level Up Retreat. I had a lot of fun playing them. Some of the highlights, I don't know. I really enjoyed that game of Deus, actually. I played Deus, and it kind of reminded me that I want to get it back in my collection, which is a problem. Anyways, Omega Rocker. Alex, why do you think the Mordred campaign is struggling? I was expecting it to be closer to 1 million by now. Omega Rocker, I can give you several reasons. Number 1, it is a game that was not heavily advertised at all. The past several Command campaigns, they've been hype and build up for, a month plus. And Mordred was like, we have a campaign coming. 2 weeks later, here it is. And so I think that's number 1. I think number 2 is it is an area control game, and historically their area control games that have not been Blood Rage, Rising Sun, and Ankh have not done as well. Blood Rage Rising Sun and Ankh was a specific trilogy that built off the hype and buzz that Blood Rage is one of the most popular games of all time. And so building off of that does mean you're going to have a degree of like people want into that just because. But I think Mordred does not have that. Sure, it has the art of who's the artist again? It's Eric Lang. Not Eric Lang's not the designer. Eric Lang, Studio McVeigh, and an artist whose name I'm blanking on. Oh my gosh. Rising Sun, Ankh. Who's the artist? I'm blanking on the artist's name, completely blanking. But yeah, but they have that art. So number 2 does not have the trilogy aspect that would build it up. Number 3 is crowdfunding in general is down. Crowdfunding in general, if you haven't been paying attention, there are campaigns that are struggling across the board. This is where I'm going to temporarily put on my GameFound hat for a second and say if you've been paying attention to the variety of campaigns, in general, wherever you are, campaigns are struggling, but I do think GameFound is doing very well as far as if you compare how games are doing on GameFound. You have $2 million Firefly, you have 3 point whatever Stalkered, or was it 2.8? I think Stalker might have been 2.8. I don't know if it crossed. No, did it cross? I don't remember if it crossed 3. You have a lot of campaigns doing fairly recently on GameFound, and then you have campaigns on Kickstarter that are struggling. I think they struggle on both places. I'm not saying they don't struggle on both, but I think that one of the things I'm very aware of is you have people who will say, oh, but my campaign on Kickstarter did X and on GameFound it might do lower. Well, no, crowdfunding in general is lower. You have campaigns such as, what was the Apex Legends, or you have Dead Cells. Those are both campaigns that should have easily crossed $1 million, and they just didn't. Crowdfunding is in a bit of a slump as people try to pull back their spending, both because of how much there is out there, as well as because of just the state of the world and the state of how things are, and delays, and people spending extra money on shipping when they don't have to, of companies shuttering the doors. Something I've always said is you don't lose your core audience. When you are doing crowdfunding, you never lose the core audience. 70% of people are there no matter what. But that's just 70%. What happens is, you have somebody who, their first campaign, they have to pay an extra $20 in shipping, and they're like, this isn't what I thought it would be, and you lose them. Whereas 3 years ago, you wouldn't have because they would have backed something else. But now you lose them. You have somebody else who has 3 campaigns that are delayed and 1 company that shut down. And from those people, 100 from let's say 100 people back that campaign and the company shut down, 70 of them continue going back to crowdfunding. But 30 of them say, you know what, maybe I back fewer games this month. And so you lose people on the edge case in all these scenarios. Cost of shipping is going up. Games are getting more expensive. There are less deals to be had. And you still have your core base, but people drop off all the time. And we're seeing that in crowdfunding. I mean, we have, over on Backkit, we have Gloomhaven barely able to cross, did it cross 4 million yet? Did it even cross 4? I think it crossed 4, so it's 5 million is the question mark. I mean, that campaign has everything and its mother thrown at it. We have Buttons and Bugs, we have Gloomhaven, we have 2nd edition, we have RPG, we have miniatures, we have a Frosthaven reprint, we have add-on books. Anything and its mother have been thrown at that campaign, and it's not even come close to the 13 million that Frosthaven did on its own. And so we are in a different place in crowdfunding. 100% we are in a different place. And that's in a state where everything is going backwards. Even standing still is an accomplishment. And I don't think a lot of crowdfunding is standing still. I think a lot of it is going backwards. Is it the end of crowdfunding? No, not in the slightest. But are we seeing a decline for sure? 100% yes. And then lastly, reason number 4 I'll give for Mordred is I think that cover looks like hot garbage. This is my own opinion. It is my own opinion. It is not your opinion. It's not everyone else's opinion. I think that the cover of Mordred looks like hot garbage, and I would never back it based on the cover alone. I am backing it because if you look at the actual game, I think the game looks cool, the miniatures look great, and I like Command games in general. I like most of their games. Not all, but I like most of their games. And so that is the last thing I'll say. I think the cover looks like hot garbage. And nothing against Muck Monster, thank you, Adrian Smith. Nothing against Adrian Smith. I think the art in the game even looks good. I think specifically the cover of Mordred does not pull me in at all. If anything, it pushes me away. I am very curious how many people share that opinion. Dun dun dun. Aaron Taylor, can you talk Austin to putting Mythic Mischief on BGA? Aaron Taylor, no I cannot. Tracy, never been to Gen Con. Is going for one day enough time? Oh, Tracy, no. No, in my opinion, no. The first problem, and it depends when and where you go, I think Gen Con is overwhelming. I think you can go for 4 days and still not see anywhere near what you want to see. The problem with going for 1 day is you have to factor in, are you staying overnight? When are you getting your badge? How long are you going to be in line for your badge? Depending on when you go, the line for your badge might be 20 minutes or it might be 3 hours, depending on when you go. I think 1 day is probably not enough time. I think 2 days is. 2 days is enough time. But I think 1 day is going to be in and then out. I don't know. I don't know if I'd recommend it. A part of it might depend on your drive and your transit time and how long you are in line for that badge. But yeah. Never been to Gen Con is going for 1 day. No. Robbie Singer. Did you find a safe place for your Galactus Mini? I mean, I found a safe place for it. It's kind of up over there where you can't see, but it's off camera. I don't love it up there because what's the point? It's just taking up space. But I don't know if this background supports it. I have had on my agenda anyway at some point to build another set for for the video, for the camera. Right now I have my computer set up, I have this set up. I'd like to build another setup, but whenever that happens, maybe Galactus will make it in there. I don't know. Aaron Taylor, I'd love to help run a social media for Level Up if you're looking for people to help out. Aaron, shoot me an email. We have somebody who in theory runs the social media, so I cannot guarantee that position is open, but depending on what you have in mind and what they have in mind, and I'm open to the conversation. Shoot me an email, we'll talk. Muck Monster, Adrian Smith, thank you. Successful week. I think it's just the lag of years of delays making people frustrated with crowdfunding. Agreed. Aaron Taylor, True Primal and few others of mine have taken forever. Yes. Cohen Vigilance. Tenaris Adventures or Wild Descent and why? Whew. I like Tenaris Adventures. I like Wild Descent. For you, I would pick Tenaris Adventures. Part of that is based on the fact it makes it an easier decision because I know that Tenaris Adventures has generally received more highly than Wild Descent, and that's a factor. I think that it should be a factor that more people like this game. So for me, it's a different question. We'll get to that in a second. But for you, I would say Tenaris Adventures. For me, I don't like the question. That's for me. If I'm answering for me, which one I like more, I guess we'll find out when I rank my top 100. I really like both systems, and there are pros and cons about each of them. I think Tenaris Adventures starts off stronger. I think Wild Descent is more accessible. I think especially Levon Rising, the way they did the story there, really made it a very solid choose-your-own adventure. They both have a lot of agency in the gameplay and the storytelling. They're both really well done. I think Wild Descent has better miniatures. I don't think it's a question. I think Tenaris starts off pretty good. I just think Wild Descent has better. For you, I would do Tenaris. For myself, I don't know. I'd have to spend more time with both of them. It's going to be close. I am very curious where they're going to end up in my top 100. That can answer for you there. Anyways, Let's see. Tim Media Wedding Photography. I agree with Mordred. The cover didn't draw me in at all. Either way, the game would be a skip for me. Will be my money to late pledging Kings of Ruin. That's fair. But yeah, I'm curious about the cover in general. Any thoughts on how Dragon Eclipse might do so soon after Stalker and before the next Nemesis? Fun fact. I just recently hedged a guess that Dragon Eclipse will do $3.2 million. That was my guess yesterday on it was an eternal meeting at GameFound, and I was like, I just made a guess. I was like, I think it'll do $3.2 million. Could I be horrifically wrong? Yes, I could be horrifically wrong. I'm combining the fact that Dragon Eclipse has cute miniatures, and I think cute miniatures are really a pull right now. And if you combine Awakened Realms and there are 35,000 people following the campaign with cute miniatures, I think depending on what the all-in pledge goes for, I think it is viable. I think I am being a little optimistic. I'm not going to disagree with that. But I think it has cute dragon minis. And I think that cute little miniatures sells itself a lot. And so people are going to want those for that value alone. And I think the nature of what Dragon Eclipse is makes it slightly more accessible as a game compared to a lot of what Awakened Realms tends to offer. Could I be horrifically wrong? 100% I could be. But I'm curious. Let's see. Omega Rocker, fair call on Mordred's box art. Rob Lee, absolutely Mordred didn't do anything for me. Miniatures are essential as a painter. Yes, they are. Tim, interesting. I was thinking it might be hit the 2.5 million myself. Yeah, and again, I think it's possible I'm being overly optimistic. I will say that again, GameFound have to a degree, but one of the things that I do at GameFound as part of my position is I frequently have to put estimates on campaigns. And my public estimate my estimate that I would actually give would not be 3.2 million. I'd probably go with a much more conservative 2.5 or along those lines, or even 2 possibly. Yeah, it might even go down to 2. But one of the things I do at GameFound is I am responsible for putting the estimate of what I think a campaign will do for our own internal projections. And I will say, I'm never 100% accurate, never. But I would say I'm overall pretty happy with how my estimates have gone versus how a campaign is done. Especially when you aggregate out, like some are a little high, some a little lower, but especially if you're going by the average, my estimates are usually not bad. I would say, for instance, Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven is a game that 5 minutes before the campaign started, I estimated that Gloomhaven would do $5 million. And then I double guessed, but I have this in the chat. I was like, somebody asked like how well do I think I'll do? And I was like, $5 million. And they're like, really that low? I was like, I don't know, maybe as high as 8, possibly, but like, I don't know, like, but let's call it 5 to 8. So I did hedge my bet because I felt I was being too mean, but now it may not even hit 5 million, or it's going to be around 5 million. So I think I have a generally decent sense of how crowdfunding is going. Decent does not translate into being right all the time. I thought Elden Ring would do like 8 million, and it did 4, so I'm definitely wrong, but I think generally I'm fairly decent at guessing. Miniature Essentials of Painter, no. Kevin B, what is the overall best campaign game of all time for you? The best campaign game of all time for me. Okay. I mean, I assume Too Many Bones does not count as a campaign, right? So I'm going to answer Cthulhu Death May Die, and you may not like that answer, but as far as episodic campaign game, Cthulhu Death May Die is just easily my highest ranked game that has chapters and scenarios and a degree of campaign to it. But if we're trying to be literal about what is literally the best campaign game for me, it is probably Tenaris Adventures or Wild Descent. It's probably one of those two. Has anything unseated it? Icefarian's great, but has not unseated it. Frosthaven has not unseated it. Arguably, if you look at my ratings this past year, and if you're ignoring Cthulhu Death May Die, then Gloomhaven as my number 3 game of all time last year would be that, but it's not going to be my number 3 of all time this year. I have too much fatigue. Gloomhaven 80 hours into it was my number 3 game of all time. Gloomhaven 150 hours into it has dropped out of my top 10 easily. It's somewhere in my top 100, but it's not in my top 10, I'll tell you that much. So I'd say probably Wild Descent or Tenaris. And I don't know which one would actually make that final cut. I think they're both great. I think they both have lots of strengths for what they do. I think they have lots of strengths, but they both are different in the strengths they provide. Wild Descent I could see winning just because it's more accessible. But Tenaris Adventures I currently have recency bias because I'm actively playing through Tenaris Adventures, and that recency bias is a real thing. And so yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Miniature Essential, what is the OLS campaign? Nidamir, after backing Cyclades and Scarface, Mordred didn't exactly fit into the budget. That's fair, and honestly, I would recommend Cyclades over any of those. Mordred versus Scarface is hard, because I like Scarface, but Scarface is hard to table, and Mordred has the appeal of, ooh, maybe it's amazing. I don't know if it is or isn't. Like, I'll say, I really like Cyberpunk 2077. I really like the Command Cyberpunk board game. Area control is really well done. Tintin, cheers for that insight into what you do with GameFound, Alex. Oh, that's one of many, many things that I do. A lot of what I do with GameFound. GameFound-wise, my biggest role at GameFound is effectively being responsible for the sales pipeline. But effectively, GameFound as a platform wants to have campaigns. And so we have targets of how much we're trying to hit funding-wise. Like, we want to bring funding into the campaign. We want to obviously exceed how well the platform did every single year. We want to grow, especially because we're still new to the space. And so I'm responsible for a lot of the internal numbers, projections, things like that, as well as the actual getting on phones with creators and saying, hey, let's have your next campaign on GameFound. Now, one thing I don't do is I'm not salesy by default. I warned GameFound when I took the position in the first place. I warned them very specifically. I said I will never sell the platform to someone who I don't believe it's the right fit for. And if you're interested in me despite that, great. If you're not, that's fine. And they were totally on board with that. They were totally on board. But I have been, in my last job, I was not in the sales of my last job. But I will say that my last job that I was at, had a tangential relationship with sales. And the idea, sales in general, I just don't like. I don't like the idea that I have to sell you on something. I just want to talk about things. I don't want to sell you on things. I don't want that. And so with GameFound in particular, I usually give people information and I usually warn them. Part of my pitch every single time is I don't make more money if you use GameFound. I don't. I don't get a credit. I don't get a bonus. I don't get anything, okay? If you use GameFound, I just did a good job. But I don't get any perk or reward if you use GameFound. But you know what does happen? If you use GameFound and your campaign underperforms, not even, and this is tricky as well, not if it underperforms what it would have done on Kickstarter, because that doesn't matter, but if it underperforms what you think it would have done on Kickstarter, meaning if you think your campaign would have done 2 million and you launch on GameFound as 1.5, then from your perspective, it's a letdown. Even if the reality is only would have done 1 on Kickstarter, but we just don't know that. And so the problem is, if I disappoint you, I feel bad. I very often know, this is a small space, I usually know the creators in the space. So if I convince you to use the platform and the numbers don't favor you, on average I can show you enough data to show that GameFound is usually the right choice. Not always, but usually. I have enough data, I'm not worried about that. But if you're the exception, if you're a part of the 30% that underperforms as opposed to the 70% that overperforms, I'm going to feel bad. And so I usually have that as part of my pitch. I'm like, you have to make a decision. I'll just give you information. And so I have conversations with creators. I talk with the platforms. I show them the data. I show them on average a reprint campaign over on GameFound on average is 70% higher than the original campaign did on Kickstarter. Versus on Kickstarter, it does around 30% higher. So it's still, a reprint campaign generally will do more because there's more buzz. Often there's expansions and whatnot. So it does make sense that it does higher. Either way, I won't get too far down the GameFound rabbit hole, but I do stuff at GameFound. Cheers. Okay, Ryan, you could have been an incredible rap singer as well. Alex, why haven't you mentioned the word race during your Mosaic review? Not even once. When a game is a puzzle, you do say so. Why race was absent? What do you mean by race? You mean the fact that Mosaic is a race to the finish line? Is that what you mean? I remember your comment, by the way. I'm pretty sure, Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, you left this as a comment at one point. Like, how could you not mention the word race during the entire Mosaic review? I mean, if you mean the idea that the Mosaic is a race to the end, sure. But, like, I don't know. The fact that I don't see a game the same way you did isn't really a factor for me. I don't think of Mosaic as a race. I think of Mosaic as, why is Mosaic a race? You have 8 actions. Why is it a race? I don't think of it as a race. I don't think of it as a race at all. But I mean, you might, and that's totally fine. And that the idea that we have differences of opinions around how we see things is definitely might be a factor in general. Let's see. Do you have a chance to play? Nidamir, did you have a chance to play The Witcher at the Retreat? Yes, I did have a chance to play The Witcher at the Retreat. I played The Witcher. We had a 6-player game of The Witcher, which isn't actually how you're supposed to play The Witcher. We had a 3-character game, but we had enough people that wanted to try it that we just teamed up in 3 teams of 2 and controlled the character, and it ran a little long. We didn't even finish it because of that, because every turn was like 2 people talking and figuring it out. I was reminded of why I enjoyed The Witcher. I definitely do enjoy The Witcher. We played the base game only, no expansions. I still very much enjoy The Witcher and want to see more of it. But I am happy I actually got to table it for the first time in like a year and a half plus. Frightful Fails on SoundCloud. Any idea how to get my hands on Zyre currently? No idea. I suggest eBay or BGG Marketplace or Reddit or Facebook. The Board Game Exchange group is often a good place to go. William Dempsey. Trying to get my wife into campaign games, but Cthulhu May Die was too complicated for her to get into it. Any thoughts on other than co-op campaigns for people who are not into board gaming? William, if you are looking for an accessible campaign game, now the question is, when you say campaign, I don't know exactly what you have in mind, but if Cthulhu May Die was too complicated, you may have to scale it back a bit into things that are adjacent. So, for example, My City is going to be the best introductory legacy game I can recommend. I think My City is incredibly accessible and gives you that arc, that idea that you move from one game to the next, and I think My City is just delightful, and it's relatively affordable. Similarly, Sagrada is going to be another excellent campaign game in the genre, giving you a degree of legacy of mission to mission as you go through it that I think is, again, strongly accessible. If you're looking for something that's campaign game with miniatures on a map, that's already a different conversation entirely, because I think Cthulhu May Die is one of the games that is more accessible within that genre of miniatures on the map. So if that was too much for you, you may need to start with something that is not miniatures and characters and, you know, line of sight and moves and actions and all that. So again, I'd highly recommend My City. Past that, Pandemic Legacy is also an excellent game. I know I'm giving you legacy games, but they're campaign game adjacent. Anything else? Charterstone is another legacy game that has a degree of accessibility, but I really would strongly recommend with My City starting off. I'm trying to think if there's a more accessible campaign game that's like dungeon crawler-ish. I don't know. They all have a degree of complexity. Like, Agamonia is great, but, like, Agamonia is not out yet. But all of these are going to have degrees of complexity to it. Rob Lee, is Q4 expectation on Nemesis intentional? It seems like a long time to announce the game. Is it to hype the game? I don't understand. Q4 is, like, this year, right? So, I mean, yes, it is intentional. I don't know exactly what it means. In general, on GameFound, specifically on GameFound, I can't say Kickstarter, but GameFound very heavily focuses on the full lead-up. You'll frequently see games that are announced even a year in advance. I mean, Dante was announced who knows how long ago, and it's sitting there gathering followers and slowly being able to put out updates and keep the community invested. Almost part of the idea of GameFound is communities. Games need a place where people can gather. And a lot of things people have done is people will create Facebook groups around their game. So let's call it Game X. Let's actually come up with an actual name. The Dastardly Zions of Mount Olympus. Okay, so you create a game called the Dastardly Zions of Mount Olympus. Terrible name, way too long. But what you do is you create a Facebook group so people can talk, share pictures, you can have updates, you can engage around the community for anywhere from a month to a year so you can build up that hype and attention. And that's true, but not everyone does that or wants to do that. One of the benefits of GameFound is you can have your pre-launch page and updates and slowly be adding information and sharing and have community, have people talking to each other all around the game as it builds up. We generally on GameFound, we recommend that you have a pre-launch page up for a minimum of a month. And generally a good recommendation that we give is anywhere from 2 to 6 months is what we'd ideally recommend. You let that hype build, you let that community build, and that you don't want to go too long ideally. You go too long and you run the risk of people kind of losing interest in something that they were interested in a year ago, but time has gone by. So too long could be a downside, but yeah, I mean, Q4 for Nemesis, we announced it, what, in February, March? I mean, that's on brand. That was also part of Awaken Realms doing AR Next. They did a whole arc of announcing their whole lineup for the year, and Nemesis was the last of that lineup. Aaron Taylor, nope, missed the thingy. Q4, successful. I'm really curious about data with backend in the crowdfunding space now. How performance via Kickstarter and GameFound might not be enough data yet. Successful, you are right. There is not enough data yet. So I specifically didn't mention this, but I guess I will now. I'm always mindful of... So again, I work for GameFound, take that into account as I say these things, but a minute ago when I mentioned that the average GameFound campaign, the average GameFound reprint campaign does 70% higher across all the campaigns. 70% higher is what a reprint campaign will do on from Kickstarter to GameFound. But that campaign from Kickstarter to Kickstarter will do around 30% higher. That is not based on all the data, because all the data is a mountain. That is me based on going through a few hundred campaigns and then stopping, because I have to stop somewhere, not cherry picking the data, but the average Kickstarter to Kickstarter reprint does 30% higher. The average Backkit reprint campaign does, I believe if I recall correctly, does 6% higher. So is the lowest from all of those. But, and here's the big but, from Kickstarter, I have hundreds of projects I'm looking at. From GameFound, I had around maybe 60 or 70 reprint campaigns. I have to double check the exact math, but it was a decent amount. And from Backkit, I think I only had around 5. So yes, it's true that Backkit is the worst performing in the data that I have, but it is working with the smallest subset, so take it with a grain of salt. It's too soon to say. And obviously, and this is the tricky part, this is where data can screw, like, data can be so screwy, because right now, and it depends on how I count it, if you count Gloomhaven as a reprint and follow-up campaign, because it is to an extent, it has Frosthaven and more, so normally I would count something like that as a reprint, but then you'd be going from 13 million down to 5 million, which means it would skew the data so badly across the aggregate. So you'd have to almost exclude Frosthaven because that would make the data worse. If forget 6%, it would drop down to like negative 50%, just because of how large that data pool is. So that's tricky as well. Successful, that was successful over there. Mug Monster, can creators change the funding goal mid-campaign? Did that happen with Serengeti Sanctuary? Huh. So, Mug Monster, the short version is, over at GameFound, we have the ability to code what we want. So the only thing you can't do is what we won't let you do. I am not aware of whether Serengeti Sanctuary changed their goal mid-campaign. I am aware of one exception that we have made for creator. One. Now, I could be mistaken, meaning I just don't know necessarily everything that happens at GameFound, and especially as an active live campaign, it is possible that the campaign goal changed. I don't like that at all. At all. If they change, did they make it higher or lower? I'm very curious about that. The one thing I am aware of is in the case of Street Fighter, Street Fighter was a campaign run by Colossal Games, and towards the end of the campaign, they wanted to do things for the community. They wanted to do things based on backer requests, but they needed more time. And they asked us if they could have a 2-week extension on the campaign, which we've never done before. We did allow them to do that in that case, partially because it was with the goal of trying to accommodate backer requests, but they needed more time to be able to do it. We weren't fully comfortable with it, but we decided to do it as an experiment and see how much pushback there was if we allow for that possibility. And it's not something we plan on doing often. We never want to change a thing in place, but a big question is, what was the harm? What was the downside? And in that conversation, we thought there wasn't really a downside. It was not the end of the world. A 2-week extension on a campaign won't become a thing that really causes a problem, and it shouldn't, in theory, be a big deal. And so we decided to allow it. It's not something we're going to do often, and there was very little pushback at the time, and so we're comfortable with the decision we made. Around Serengeti Sanctuary, I'm not aware of any change that was made or why there's a change that was made. I don't like the idea of messing with funding goals, but again, the question would still be, to me, what's the harm? So if they had a $30,000 funding goal and they dropped it to $20,000, I have no clue what it actually was. I think it was a $30,000 funding goal. But if they dropped to $20,000, the goal there is to make the campaign fund more. I don't like it. I don't like, because to me, it's not even about, I don't even think there's harm in and of itself. But I think if you start messing with funding goals, it takes away backers' confidence that the funding goal actually means something. And already we have enough of a problem with that because people will frequently put lower funding goals than necessary. So I don't like it. I can't say. I mean, this is the problem with being a GameFound employee. Like, I'm a GameFound employee, but like publicly on a channel, I'll be like, I don't like what we just did. If they change the funding goal, I don't personally like it. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I don't personally like it. Aaron Taylor, I'm back to Temporary Bad Karmas to introduce people into campaign games. Interesting. Bad Karmas is more episodic, right? That's more adjacent to Cthulhu May Die, I believe. But same idea, I think. Actually, is it? No, you unlock things, don't you? I only played the prototype, so I think you do unlock things as you go. You're right. You are correct. You deck build as you go. Carlos, co-op campaigns, keep the heroes out has been a big hit with my non-gaming partner. That makes sense. That one didn't work as well for me, but I completely understand why it would work. Like, I think there was a lot of promise there. I had specific complaints. Wantover, I saw at a call with Meg you have Rune Wars and haven't played it, but I assume you will never review it, right? I don't know what I don't know. So, reviewing games. I will review anything that was sent to me to review, and I will review anything that is in the hotness, like in the moment, in the current people's attention span. I'll review all those things. The thing I don't review as much, which you are, I assume, hinting to, is older games that I play. But I still will review those. I'll still, like, I have a review for Expeditions to Newsdale that I have. I filmed it. It's on my backlog somewhere, and that's a review because I played it, and even though it's an older game, I finally played it, and I played it enough times that I reviewed it. The specific situation that I will not review it is if I play an older game and I only play it once and I don't know when I'm playing it again, that's usually the gap. So, for example, a newer game, I'll specifically give it multiple plays so that I can have content when it's most wanted. Versus Rune Wars, I might play Rune Wars, and then if I don't play Rune Wars for another 4 months or even more, a year, then who knows what happens to it. Or if I only play it once and then decide I'm done with it, do I care enough? Do I think the content is valuable enough at this point to specifically give it a second play? Probably not. So I would say if I like Rune Wars enough to play it twice in a short time frame, then you'll probably see a review at some point. But if I don't like it enough to do that, then you might see a review very far down the road, or possibly not at all. That is possible. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't, just less likely. Frequency of Life. What is your opinion on combining base games and expansions, stack boxes, smash into one, custom storage solutions? It's frustrating when you have a solution when a new expansion drops. I always smash into boxes. I always combine into the fewest boxes possible. Paper bags, not paper bags, plastic bags are your friend. I guess paper bags are your friend if you're being eco-conscious. Successful Geek. That is one thing I really like about GameFound. The preview page actually helps build the community. I so wish full of updates were in the emails though, like Kickstarter, instead of having to click through. Successful? Again, I am right there with you. There are several small quality of life changes I wish for. I wish you could see the full update in an email, 100%. I don't care about the app at all. I know people want an app. That doesn't bother me at all. I wish you could tag from one update to the next like you can in Kickstarter, as opposed to having to like go to the URL and change the number from 3 to 4 or go back entirely. So I wish there was that as well. There's another thing that I wish for. I'm trying to remember the other thing. There's one more thing that I think is frequently asked for, but I don't remember what it was. But either way, there are things about GameFound that I wish I could change. I will say that there's a development team, there's 2 development teams, constantly putting out updates, and every 2 weeks we have updates on things we've added, changed, tweaked, bugs. So there's constant development on the platform. It's just not always on the features that I want. Pablo Tibon. GameFound has stretch pay. What else is there to ask? Best option ever. Pablo Taban, I, like many, am mixed on stretch pay. I think stretch pay is an amazing tool, and I think it gives people the tools to manage their budget as far as how they spread things out. The thing that I'm always wary of with stretch pay is I don't want people to use it irresponsibly. I don't want it to be a tool that says, hey, we're GameFound. We let you spend money that you shouldn't. That I don't like. I don't like that at all. But not everyone does that. I think that some people will use it irresponsibly and they'll buy games they shouldn't otherwise do. Other people have a gaming budget and they pace themselves out, and that helps them to do it. So I think Stretch Pay is a very good tool. I am wary of the small downside that there can be if people use it irresponsibly, and I would caution people to never buy a game they cannot afford. If it's about stretching it out into your budget, that's fine, but please do not buy games you can't afford. It's not worth it. Frightful Fails on SoundCloud. Game you're most excited to have fulfilled currently? I don't know. I mean, I just got Race to the Raft. I'm very excited about that. I also got Castle Burgundy. Loving that. I don't know what I'm currently waiting. I mean, Primal. Definitely Primal. Cripple Mr. Onion. Good to see Resident Evil finally leaving the factory. Ooh, Resident Evil. I want Resident Evil 2. That's one of my favorite games from Steamforge. Omega Rocker. Now that you've had some time, how does Undead or Alive compare to Marvel Zombies for you? I can't answer that until I have the proper Marvel Zombies, meaning not the Heroes Resistance and not the base game that we have right now. I want the proper Marvel Zombies, the full-on you playing as the heroes against the zombies. Is that the way I like it? Yes, you playing as the heroes against the zombies in a full-on box. When I played the prototype, that was the best experience I had. Playing as the heroes, playing as Doctor Strange, as you wander into a mansion, as you full-on take on the scenarios, that was my best experience, and I want that back. For right now, I love them both, but I think Marvel Zombies is my go-to. I just need the full, proper experience that I have not been able to have yet. Petrified, hello Petrified. Family Meeple, loving your content, thank you. Question, what's your most expensive Kickstarter to date? Ooh, fun fact, I actually did a full video on this. You can Google BoardGameCo, most expensive crowdfunding campaigns ever. If I recall correctly, it was a tie between Storm Thunder and Marvel United. Does that make sense? Or maybe Marvel Zombies? Huh, I don't remember. Storm Thunder, Marvel United, and Marvel Zombies were all in the most expensive campaigns to date, but I go through like 15 of them. I think I did an additional video over my Patreon covering like the next 10 most expensive campaigns, so if you want to find some Patreon content, I have regular Patreon videos all the time, dedicated specific Patreon videos. Dennis, I still wish that projects could have a dashboard to show delivery estimate and stage the project without digging into updates. I wish for that as well. It's something we've actually talked about at GameFound. We've talked about this. It's a feature request that we have in the queue. The tricky part with those, here's the tricky part, okay? The tricky part is such a tool is only as useful as the creator filling out the tool. Without the creator filling out the tool, it is useless. And if the creator doesn't update the tool, it is useless. And so part of the trickiness about it is not just the coding of the feature. That's doable. It's more that if it's not used, it is very quickly ignored. Any tool that is not used frequently and correctly is just going to be ignored and not have accurate information. And so that's a big challenge around that. Aaron, I'm excited for Primal, but I think 6 Siege is my most anticipated to deliver. 6 Siege is definitely my 4-year-old's most anticipated to deliver. He keeps asking me for the police game, and I'm like, it's a long, long wait, buddy. Mug Monster, pretty sure Serengeti Sanctuary changed the funding goal from 20,000 to 10,000 and mentioned so in the update saying they got permission from Ravensburger and GameFound. I don't like it. I don't think it's the end of the world. Here's the pro and con of that. For this campaign in its own, I don't think it's the end of the world, because what does it matter? If you were interested in the game, then you should be interested no matter what. The only reason that lowered funding goals should matter to you as a backer is if you now think that they are playing games with the money and they will not be able to produce, to make that game, right? That should be the issue. If you're like, oh my gosh, you won't be able to make that game, and now you're just taking our money, and you said you need 20, but if you're saying now you need 10, will you make it? That part is fine in this case because I believe, if I recall correctly, Serengeti Sanctuary is one of the Ravensburger games, which means it has Ravensburger's backing, which means that game is getting made. If it gets the funding goal they need, it's getting made. I'm not worried about it. Ravensburger's not interested in, like, messing with negative press for the 10,000 euro difference. It's not going to happen. So I am confident in that campaign being delivered. But I don't like the idea that a backer shouldn't trust the funding goal. I don't like the idea that they can be changed willy-nilly. I think I care a little bit less around the end date. You want to tweak the end date for one reason or another. It's still not the best, but I think the harm there is less. Versus, I think the funding goal in general should be something that we trust to a degree. If you can just change it, you'll just change it as you need. And so I don't like that in general. That's where we are. Why food, wood, stone, gold? Why are some publishers asking for more shipping for the Kickstarter and then later report healthy profits at the end of the year? Food, wood, stone, gold. You'll have to let me know which publisher you're talking about. Because, I mean, that's a good question. It's a great question. Which publisher? Which publisher asked for more shipping and is reporting healthy profits? Because that is a very... Most companies are struggling. And most companies... And also, a relevant thing as well is... Like, for example, I don't want to name the publisher because... I'm not going to name the publisher because this is information I have from a friend, so I'm not going to do that. But there is a publisher that I know of, and this is a publisher that did not ask for more shipping, but there's a publisher that I know of that lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on a game that they basically said, we're not going to ask for more shipping. We're an established creator. We're an established publisher. Even though it cost us so much more during the whole freight crisis, we are not asking for more from our community. We're just not going to. And so I know that they've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on their game. And again, this is something that, like, it was given to me in confidence. It was not asked to be shared. They're not looking for a pat on the back. Like, it's not, there's no reason to lie about it. And they lost several $100,000 on that game. But I guarantee you that publisher made money across the whole. That publisher made money across the whole, no question. They have a large library. This is one crowdfunding project. They could lose money on that and still make money. And so that would be an example of a creator who lost money on a game and still made money in profits. But they shouldn't necessarily lose money on the game. Similarly, if you have a creator who says, hey, this game, we asked you for X, Y, and Z, and we're actually going to lose $300,000 in this game. But if you pay an extra $20 shipping, we'll only lose $100,000 in this game. I'm comfortable with that creator making money. So I'm still waiting for an actual answer on which publisher you're actually referring to, but that would be an example of why I wouldn't necessarily be concerned. Now, if it's a smaller creator, if you have Oathsworn, for example, if Oathsworn is like, hey, by the way, we have to ask for more shipping, but also we made $3 million, I mean, granted, that's a question mark, and I think that's a reasonable question mark. So I don't want people, I would not want a creator to ever ask for more money and then to make money on that game to a degree that is irresponsible. And irresponsible is the question, by the way, because you have to factor in the creator's time and profit and all those things. You just factor in a lot of things. But I definitely don't want, you know, people just taking advantage of backers. Definitely not. Sindeka, why do Command not send you Kickstarter games to preview anyone any more? Do you think they lack confidence that games will be well received? Wait, I'm not sure. Why do Command Games not send you Kickstarter games to preview anyone? I don't know if you mean anyone or any more. Do you think they lack confidence that games will be well received? So, Command Games, fun fact, Command Games have, I believe, never once sent me a game to preview. That's never what they've done. What they have done is they had a relationship with Quacklope, and they would send games to Quacklope to cover, and because I worked with Quacklope at the time, I would often have an opportunity to showcase their games when I played them. That's, I don't think Command's ever sent me an actual game like, hey, Alex, here you go, here's a game, please cover this. I benefited from a side relationship that I had with Jesse at the time. That's why if you, like, I haven't covered the last, like, several Command games because that relationship kind of moved on, and so I haven't covered the past several Command games. I do have a relationship with Command. I do have a relationship with them. I know the people on their team. They have sent me review copies of games, like the final review. They've never actually sent me a prototype to cover in any way. I think I'm trying to remember. Like, I covered Cyberpunk 2077. That was through Quacklope. I covered what's it called? Master of the Universe. That was through Quacklope. Did I cover anything else? I don't remember, but I think it was all through Quacklope. And I had the opportunity to play some games on TTS through Quacklope. So I've gotten final review copies from Command, but never from the actual games. I don't think it has anything to do with their confidence. They just have chosen to not have review copies of their games. They've chosen to only engage in, I believe, generally paid playthroughs or paid previews, often with the Dice Tower and Quacklope. What's your biggest frustration with Kickstarter GameFound platforms? For me, trying to go back to the very first update posted takes forever. So on GameFound, you should not have that problem at the slightest because GameFound in the URL has a little number. So if you go to the URL on GameFound, the number of the update is there. You could tweak that update. So that's the benefit. If you have like 50 updates, you can just go there, type a 1, and boom, you're good to go. For Kickstarter, that is definitely a pet peeve that I have had to deal with, especially in doing research for my videos or for my late pledge videos or things like that. Definitely a pet peeve I've had to deal with. By the way, it's 11:05. I will be wrapping this up sometime in the next, 10, 15 minutes or whatnot. Jose, why do companies outline true funding goals and just make pre-funding? Why not have companies outline true funding goals and just make pre-funding stretch goals a thing would solve the problem? I don't know what you mean by that. Pre-funding stretch goals. Oh, interesting. I don't think it solves the problem. I think it's an interesting idea. I think it's a very interesting idea, but I don't think it solves the problem. The practical reality is people like to see funded campaigns. This is a problem that I don't have an answer for. The problem that I don't have an answer for is, very often I can unplug this, but now we're at plenty battery life. The problem you have is when a creator gives a true funding goal, it looks like their campaign is struggling, and people frequently don't like to jump in on campaigns that are struggling. I don't have a good answer for that. I'm in the same boat. If I see a campaign that's 40% funded, I'm like, I don't know if I care. But if that same campaign is 200% funded, I'm much more likely to back it. That is illogical, it is stupid, it makes no sense, but it is, practically speaking, the reality. And so there is an incentive to give a lower funding goal because you will improve your funding. If your funding goal that you need is 300,000, and if you say 300,000, maybe you might get to 305,000. Maybe. I'm just making up numbers here. That same campaign, if they put $100,000 as their stretch goal, is more likely to get higher than had they put $300,000 as their stretch goal, as their funding goal. Which means, unfortunately, and I don't like it. Companies are incentivized to give you incorrect funding goals, not accurate funding goals, because it is better for them because of the nature of human nature. It sucks. I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it. That's true. It's the same kind of deal as, you're more likely to buy a $20 tie if it says $20 down from $70 than if it just says $20. That's human nature, and it involves lying to the consumer to appeal to human nature, which I think sucks. I don't like it one bit. Best of Star Trek. Have you played Archaeos Society yet? Pretty fun. I have not played Archaeos Society. I have played Ethnos. I was very excited for Archaeos Society, and visually it looks like a letdown for me. I was excited for it, and I'm so let down. This is not like... Ethnos had like a nice map, and they just did these tracks, and sure, you could do that, but not what I want personally. Food, Stone Gold. So they should take money from their other projects and bear the shipping, while the consumers bear every bit of the cost. That's a good question, Food, Stone Gold. So... First of all, in the case of that particular company I'm referring to, they did do that. Secondly, is because the nature of crowdfunding. Meaning, if you give an estimate to somebody based on something that was true at the time, the problem is, like, the state of the world. This is the thing that people frequently forget. I am not a fan of people asking consumers to pay more money in general. I'm not. Way back in the early days of covering crowdfunding, when Ludus Magnus Studios, I believe they did this. They had a campaign where their estimates were wrong and they asked consumers to pay it, and I was against that. Like, I have a good relationship with Ludus Magnus Studios now, but my relationship with them started with me saying, this company is wrong, this company screwed up, they should not have done so, that is completely wrong, I am very against that. I am against the company asking for backers to pay more money in general. Where I completely change my stance on that is when the state of the world goes through a worldwide pandemic, and you're not talking about cost of goods increases, you're talking about the state of the world drastically changing. Freight prices ballooned. Containers used to cost $5,000 were costing $28,000 to ship. That is like a 5.5 times magnification of costs. Cost of goods were going up. Factories were shutting down. When the state of the world goes through a worldwide emergency, I'm going to say this in the possibly a least nice way possible. I don't care about your board game. I don't care about my board game. I am understanding and sympathetic to the fact that a company made a decision based on how the world operates, and the world's like, by the way, remember pandemics and deaths left, right, and center, and the world shutting down? We're going to change the entire way everything operates. I'm sympathetic to changes in that case. I am very sympathetic to the idea that a company should be like, hey, I know we kind of thought it would cost X, but it's actually costing us Y, so if you could help out with that, that'd be great. I'm cool with that. I'm completely cool with that. I'm also cool if on your end you're like, well, I'd like a refund. I'm cool with all these conversations. I think that exceptional circumstances allow for exceptional circumstances. And so that's kind of where I am with that. But in a general situation, I'm against the company asking for more money. It's specifically within the nature of the world changing as we know it, where I am much more lenient. Juan Tova, is Bamboo by Devere on your plans to review? I like Devere games in general. I still have a few I haven't gotten to. I haven't gotten to Jerusalem. I haven't gotten to Bitoku. So when Devere games, when I get games from Devere, in general, I try to cover all review games as soon as I possibly can. Sometimes I'm able to, and sometimes I get backlogged, and so that's an unfortunate reality. I would love to cover Bamboo. Don't know if or when I will. Robbie, do you prefer to pay more for shipping up front, or would you rather be asked for more for shipping later? I like it better when shipping is charged at the time of the shipping estimate, because that is the most realistic to a degree. I think none of them are fun, honestly, because doing it up front is the worst information. Doing it later is almost like this reminder of like, hey, by the way, I know you forgot about this, but boom, you just got charged $40. So I don't like either, but because I don't like either, I'm going to go for accuracy. Jose, Command Dune game you played, last one. Oh, so Command Dune game, interesting. So I did cover the Command Dune game, but I only covered it from Prototype. I mean, I only covered it from TTS, if I recall correctly. Command's Dune game was a publicly available TTS, and so I did coverage around that to an extent because of that. But that's all, I think. Foodwood Stone Gold, do you believe that there are publishers who would abuse Kickstarter Game Fund's policy to ask for more money since there's no way to verify if it's their legitimacy? Do I believe that a publisher would abuse their policy to ask for money? So I can't speak for Kickstarter. On GameFound, we often do like to look at a lot of information when things are playing out differently. Meaning, especially if you're running more campaigns. We like to be confident in the health of our creators. I'm not saying we'll never make a mistake, but we definitely try to look into things as much as possible. Is it possible that there are people who would abuse anything? 100% is possible. That's the sad reality of the world. People will abuse things. If you give people a system, they will abuse it. That is how life operates, unfortunately. The hope is that it happens as minimally as possible, and that, in general, try to back games and creators you trust. And I think when people cry wolf about a lot of different things without any real evidence, I think usually that means that your framework is that you're looking to be deceived, effectively. And I'm curious because Footwood Stone Gold, you mentioned that there are publishers who have asked for more money and are reporting large profits at the end of the year. You still haven't answered who. So I'm curious, and just to be genuine with me directly, do you actually have a publisher that has done that you are aware of? Or are you just speaking to your worst fears, but asking it as if it's fact? Because it feels, and I could be wrong, I don't know you, you're a username on the internet, I don't know who you are, but it feels like you're afraid of being scammed to the point that you're making it a reality. And I'm not saying you're not being scammed, but you said something with confidence that you haven't answered yet. So be wary of assuming everyone is out to get you versus, I don't know, I mean, like, have a good time, have fun, enjoy life and all that stuff. And again, if somebody is out to get you, I will be right there with you, grabbing a pitchfork, and, you know, if someone's scamming you out of money, that's not cool. That is not cool. I just don't know if that's actually happening here. Eric M. How's Level Up event? Wanted to go, but schedule vacation did not work. Eric, it was delightful, had a lot of fun, and I walked into it very nervous towards the end. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this again, and I still don't know if I want to do it again. It's a lot of work, but I kind of want to do it again because it was a lot of fun too. Eric, can you give somewhat of a brief description of what Level Up event is or will be in the future after completing the first year? Primarily, Level Up event is a playing games convention. That is likely the focus of what it will be. It's going to be a game where you go to play games, make new gaming friends, learn new games, play new games, have access to some of the latest, hottest games out there, have access to some prototypes you wouldn't otherwise have access to just a library of games and an opportunity to play a game straight for a few days. There are things we will add to it as the years go on to improve it, assuming it does continue to go on. We always will want to make it the best experience possible, but we are taking things slowly to make sure it is a good foundation on the event. Robbie, got to run. Have a good day, everyone. Have a good day, Robbie. One Sharp Joe. Hey, everyone. Hey, One Sharp Joe. How are you doing? Sanskrit. Hey, Alex. I really enjoyed your video when you talked about kids and board games and not forcing it if it's your hobby. I'm a 22-year-old college student and applied that to game nights is not for all. Yes. I never push games on people. Well, not never. Very rarely. I say not never because once in a while there's like people who I think games are good. Like I think that personality-wise games will click with them. And once in a while with certain people I've actually pushed a little bit. But I usually try not to push games in general. Dennis Donetti, are there any audits of companies using your platforms? So Dennis, yes, we do. There are times and situations we will ask for financials. We have different rules. We have different rules in place over at GameFound. The most basic rule is you cannot run a second campaign until your first campaign delivers. We do have plenty of exceptions for that if you have an established track record. If you do not have an established track record, we are more firm about that. There have been times where a creator wanted to launch another campaign and we're like, hey, you know what? What we need to see next from you is we need to see actual production of the game. Like we need to see photos from the factory, and we also need to see the shipping bill, paid for whoever you're using for distribution. In other words, we want to be confident that you're not using one campaign to fund another. There are degrees of audits and checks. There are people who have taken their game off of GameFound and gone to other platforms because they didn't pass our own internal audits and checks. There are times we have asked for finances. There are times where we don't push because many creators don't want to give their books over to us, but there are times where we might require it as part of the process. I will never say that we will not make a mistake. I guarantee you we will. I guarantee you there'll be a wrong judgment call at some point in the future, unless we're literally treating it as like a full-on bank and audits and everything, and even then there just couldn't be a guarantee. We will make mistakes, but we absolutely have, we care very deeply about the consumer confidence in crowdfunding. It is the entire way we function. If consumers do not trust crowdfunding, if they do not trust the platform, they will not back games. So yes, there'll be mistakes. I'm sure of it. But we definitely do audit and look into things as much as possible. Henry Audubon, Level Up was amazing. Henry, it was great to play The Witcher with you, 6 players. Mike Owens, hey Alex, I want to say thanks for the consistent content and thoughtful reviews. It's been super helpful for me as someone who's gone to the hobby in the last 6 months. Mike, enjoy the hobby. It is a lot of fun. Also expensive. Kevin, what websites are available to back games besides Kickstarter and GameFound? How would you rank them and why? There's actually a lot more than you think. It depends if you're being more US focused or not. So inherently there's Kickstarter and GameFound. Those are going to be the largest 2 right now. Then there's going to be BackKit, which I don't even know if it's the largest or not. BackKit's definitely in that mix. There's also going to be, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on names now. There's obviously, Indiegogo has done campaigns very, very rarely. There's Game on Tabletop. They've done occasional campaigns. I think they have more of a BackKit and kind of an international market as well. There are a lot of platforms once you start going internationally, a lot, but I don't know who they are. But I'd say if you go to GameFound, BackKit, and Kickstarter, you're covering your biggest 3 bases right now. Nick Cresson, have there more instances recently where publishers have asked for more money, or is it still just leftover feelings from months ago with Mythic Games and others? I think people still have asked for more money. I think the most recent one that I'm aware of is, what's the name? Elf Creek Games said that they're going to be asking for more money for specific orders, like international orders where the shipping cost is just too much. Like they're sucking up the difference in cost on US orders because it's not the worst, but there are some costs where they're like, hey, we charged 40 and it's costing us 80. We just have to ask for more money. So Elf Games is a recent one, so it still is happening. It's definitely slowed down, but I think that slowing down does not mean it's gone away. It just means it's slowed down a lot. Cribbled Mr. Onion. Sanskrit best quote, turn them into geeks early and fast before the other factions get to them. Cute. Eric M. Any chance Level Up will be located somewhere near international airport location next? I think current location isn't too bad, but if you aren't driving, you have to fly and rent or take the train. Eric, I had this conversation yesterday with some people in the Level Up crew because that's a conversation I'm currently having right now. I am a very big fan of the fact that you have to take into account not the cost of the ticket, but the overall cost of the event. The overall cost of the ticket, of the hotel, of the transit to and from the airport, whether you have to rent a car. I am very much a fan of looking at the full cost of the user before you decide whether it's a good location or good offering. The tricky part is sometimes that does mean, like people have frequently said, oh, it's so nice to actually have an event, on the East Coast. Well, yes, because sometimes the costs or airport locations are harder there, so it makes it a worse offering. So it's tricky because sometimes in order to give some people a better offering, you have to give others a worse offering, which is a balance that we're still playing with and operating with. There's a reason like many conventions are in Florida or in Las Vegas because the access to hotels and the cheap access to airport and cheap hotels are much better in some of those places. But that means you might just bundle all the conventions in the same area. So it is something I'm actively working on right now with the crew. I want to make sure that we have the best possible offering, but that I don't want to just show up in like Vegas and Florida just like everyone else. So it's something we're working around and trying to do the best we can. It's a constant balance and struggle. Eric M. No, laughed at my death. What local game stores do you recommend in your area? Do you ever visit them? I mean, Critical Hit Games is the only local game store that's like really close to me. I don't really visit local game stores. I mean, infrequently. In the past like 4 years, I've probably been to like 2 local game stores. Not a lot. I just don't really game there or buy games from them, so I don't have as much incentive to go there. Sanskrit. I learned the hard way last night. My frat house is not a good place for quite cinematic games. Betrayal of the House on the Hill. Sanskrit, could have told you that. Dennis the Nutty. I really enjoyed Level Up. I hope you put Alex Mel's quarters to good use. I've lost it. It's gone. I had it in my pocket. I don't know where it is now. I don't know where it is. And I mean, I don't know where it is. It might be in the actual pants. I may not have transferred it. In general, when I switch pants, I'll just transfer all my stuff. But coins are the biggest thing that could be left in them. Dennis Dudley, no, we covered that one. Joshua Marcus had a great time at Level Up. Thank you for hosting. Checking out Into the Mountains of Madness was a hoot and never would have had the chance without it. I'm glad you had the opportunity to try Mountains of Madness, a game that is featured in Grant's script. Petrified, just need to move Level Up to Austin next year. LOL. Petrified, we're having conversations. We are having conversations. Swabme, I've heard Minneapolis is a great place to hold a convention. Swabme, if you have an actual plan there, or you have an actual convention center, or distance to airport, or any of those things, or pricing that I could look into, like what's the price of a hotel in Minneapolis? I'll pitch whatever I need to pitch. I need to offer them. My ideal would be to not just do Las Vegas or Florida, because those have a lot of conventions already, but I do want something that is reasonable and affordable and a good deal for the people coming. So I'm happy to do Minneapolis. I don't mind. Captain Petter, Canadian Level Up would be amazing. Canadian Level Up likely won't happen, at least right now. I'm sorry. Petrified, Swami Petrified, LOL, Sanskrit, I back Primal Awakening. Is there a chance we get this year? It seems likely we'll get Primal this year. And I think right about now...
Someone is at the front door.
I got someone ringing the doorbell. So let me take a look over here. What's happening over here? Someone's at the door. That looks like they're dropping off. I just got a FedEx package right now. So I am going to go ahead. It is 11:20. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate all of you. I'm glad I got to do a Q&A. I've missed these. It's been a while. I'll probably have a regular weekly live next week. The week after that, Devin, Meg, and I are all going to be at Gen Con, so there's going to be no weekly live, but there may well be a game show recorded like a year ago. How about we just rotate between Camp Co-op cities every year? Let's have Cleveland first. Convention in Cleveland, okay? Make my life a little easier. And also the library is the tricky part. You have to move the library around or buy games every time. That is something you have to manage. Anyways, we're going to go and wrap it. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to see all of you here. I will be back. We'll be back next week. I'll have more Q&As. The Q&A is never going to go away. They're just going to rotate into wherever. But until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo, and I'm going to shuffle over to my computer where I can hit the end stream button. Also, have a good one.